What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about a huge info dump, seemingly, on Skull and Bones. Now, a couple of things to say really quickly before we get into reading it. This comes from Tom Henderson, who I've talked a lot about, and I think it's important to make sure we know where this stuff comes from, right? Just so we can judge if it's true or not. I like him. He's very accurate in the things that he knows about, specifically Battlefield. He's got like almost a perfect record in terms of Battlefield information, leaks, rumors. COD, he's pretty darn good with. Now, when he starts to spread out, like in GTA or Skull and Bones, I lose a lot of confidence in him, just mainly because he really focuses on a specific, thing. So, I don't say that to bash him. I actually do kind of like him, but I'm just making it known, this is very much, in my opinion, outside of his specialty. So, take it with a grain of salt, as we should always do, and we'll ultimately see if this happens. It sounds pretty good. I'm not saying I don't want this stuff to be true, but let's read through. So he did a Twitter thread. I'm going to read through it rapid fire, and then we'll talk about my opinions on it. So in Skull and Bones, there's 5 tiers of ships: small, medium, large, etc. And they are categorized into 3 categories: combat, cargo, and exploration. Unlocking different ships are tied to blueprints, which you can buy at different settlements. Buying a blueprint isn't the only hurdle, though, as you'll need the right amount of resources, such as wood, metal, fiber, to build your ship. A bigger ship doesn't mean a better ship either, as smaller ships are more nimble and can go where bigger ships can't. An example given was that a smaller ship might outrun a bigger ship by staying close to the shore or going up a river, because bigger ships would get beached on the bottom of shallow waters. Every ship has a predetermined amount of cannons, but other weaponry can be added / upgraded to put on your ship. Cannons, ballistas, flamethrowers, mortars, and more can be attached to your ship, in addition to different ammo types, chain-linked cannonballs, for example, which is freaking sweet. You can upgrade your ship at any time, granted you have the money to do so. Adding extra armor, adding smelteries, storage boxes to carry more inventory, etc. is all possible. There's a lot of customization options also, including changing your sail, wheel, shanties, etc. The game is open world and seems to be set in the Indian Ocean, with a fictional pirate having been based on Madagascar. The coast of Azania is a location on the map. You start the game as a nobody, building a raft and then eventually a small fishing boat where you can explore the open sea. You collect quests, increase your pirate rep, and collect resources to get your first ship. Player progression is currently tracked by the amount of money you earn via doing jobs, raiding other ships, plundering settlements, raiding fortresses, and doing cargo runs. The more money you make as a pirate, the more powerful you become. Ship perspective is pretty similar to 2018's gameplay, just with small changes. While on land, it's in third person, and you can only walk on foot in safe havens and hideouts. There's no combat, parkour, or anything special to walking as the captain other than to go meet NPCs. Overall, the game isn't near completion, but it is reported to be in decent spot with a lot of good combat. The middle of the map is a big open sea, and it can take some time to sail across. I'll try and get specifics as to how long that actually is. And then somebody asked him, I thought this is an arena ship battle, so this game is an open world PvP VE, or just PvE. And he says, I will ask, but from what I'm seeing, it looks to be player versus player, PvP VE, unless there's 2 different modes or something. There are 8 different factions who are all against one another, I believe. So, not bad. I actually like several things about this. The customization seems awesome. The different weaponry seems awesome. The customization of your ship in terms of what it looks like, and adding armor and weapons and all that stuff, really, really cool. I like the kind of realism there with small ships, big ships. I mean, yeah, just because you have a big ship, I mean, maybe it could take more fire and it has more weapons and all that stuff, but it can't do everything a small ship can do. So if you can exploit that in the game, that's incredibly cool. I like that kind of realism, specifically for like when you're in the sea, sea kind of games, right? Here's the biggest issue I have. Well, number one, I have a thought I want to say, so I'm just going to say it, and we'll see where you guys think or land on it. Again, I don't necessarily disbelieve, I don't not believe what he's saying here. However, some of the stuff he kind of leans into, a lot of this stuff has already kind of been known. I'm not saying he's making it up. I really want to make that clear. But some of his later comments are a little bit weird. Specifically that last one where it's not near completion, but it's reported to be in a decent spot with a lot of good combat. There was a report a month ago that like not necessarily verbatim, but it was pretty close to that. So I don't know, and the ship perspective is similar to 2018 with just some small changes. A lot of this stuff is stuff we've already, in fact, the gameplay we saw of this game, you do see different weapons going. Now, not everything he said, but you do see different weapons. Another thing that, I don't disbelieve, but it is very annoying, is that the no combat, no moving as the character. Why did this game get delayed for an eternity if they didn't add that? That's, to me, look, when Skull, and I'm going to be very consistent. Go back and watch for the past 4 years that I've covered this game, because I've done that for the past 4 years. Go back and watch. I've always been on the side of, if Skull and Bones is not a game that they want you to, like Assassin's Creed, they don't want you to play as the character, be jumping around, sword fighting, all that stuff. If that's not what the game is, then that's fine. It's not necessarily right, it's not perfect, it may make people upset, it may make me upset, but that's their decision. And if you want to give us just literally a ship combat sim game, that's, then do it. You know what I mean? But when they showed the game off, and then they went back to the drawing board, a lot of the criticism that they even talked about was that you really couldn't do anything as the individual. So when they reworked it 1,000 times, and that's all exaggerations, but realistically, remember, this game has been rebooted, I believe, at least 3 to 4 times. So they restarted it over and over and over again, and they settled on not having us control our character, where it's Sea of Thieves, but less than Sea of. I saw some people in the comments, and look, I'm not opposed to comparing games that are this similar to each other, but it does seem like people are just trying to start fights. Somebody said this game already sounds better than Sea of Thieves. I think in some ways it does, but if you think that going around an island and just talking to an NPC, getting a quest, and walking back to your ship, if you think that's more engaging than what you can do on land in Sea of Thieves, you're out of your mind. Because, and I don't even love Sea of Thieves all that much. In fact, I don't love it at all. I think it's a good game and really nothing more, nothing less. But if you think that that's better than Sea of Thieves, I don't know where your head's at, because in Sea of Thieves, you can actually do things. And again, if that's not what Skull and Bones is, then it's not what it is. But it just seemed like that's what they were going. And, again, I'm not going to ramble too much longer on it, because maybe we all got our expectations thinking that way, where it's they're going to add these kind of thing, but it's just been, I don't even think it's the fans' fault. It's something that's been talked about for so long. They've talked about it, leakers have talked about it. I mean, I just don't really know what to say about it. So that, in my opinion, would be the most annoying. I don't mind it, but I think the number one thing I've always said in terms of what you could give us, could you at least board a ship and sword fight the people? I mean, I don't know. I guess by doing that, you would have to now craft an entire gameplay mechanic to your, because if you're jumping on their ship, you may need to have a mechanic to get there. So swinging on ropes or, whatever, or you put down kind of planks to walk across. You do that. But then now you have to do can you jump? Can you dodge? Can you block? Can you fire a gun? Can you sword fight? Can you parry? I get it. It's adding stuff. And then when you do that, you're well, why don't we just let them do that on land as well? And I guess the reverse of that is well, why don't we just not let them do it at all? So again, I respect their decision to do what they want. If they're setting out to just make you go on your ship, the entire game is just blowing up other ships. That's not the worst thing. It does depend, though, right? Because that stuff can get very repetitive. So I would say the other stuff that Tom mentioned, that's the most important stuff. If you're on a ship and the entire point of the game is to make money, which seems actually kind of weird that the entire mechanic of the game is just earn as much money as possible. That's actually very simple, and maybe that's actually a good thing, but it just seems kind of weird reading that. But if that's the idea, then you need to make everything else very dynamic, very non-repetitive, right? This customization stuff needs to be off the walls. The weaponry needs to be off the walls. You need to be able to take down ships in so many different ways. There better be different, they did mention the kinds of ships. There needs to be a good variety. The weather, for the love of God, please make the weather dynamic. That would make it so much more enjoyable. If it's not dynamic weather, the game is screwed, I would say, just automatically. So, as I've always said, again, for 4 years of coverage of me doing this, I'm passionate about this game. I've always talked about this game. In fact, I've talked about this game when nobody else has, and when the game was in like its darkest places, which you could still say is right now, because I want a good game like this. You know what I mean? I think there's even with what Tom says here, there's 100% potential here. Can they nail it? That's what I've always been worried about, and that's what I really want, but I don't know. I don't know if people, I'm not upset necessarily by what I just read, but I think some other people could be, and it also doesn't paint like the greatest game of all time, so it's still a wait and see thing. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. As always, make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel, hit the bell icon so you guys know when all of these videos go up. If you want to follow me over on Twitter or subscribe to our second channel, we're actually very close to milestones on both of those, so I would appreciate your support. And if you want to support us financially through Patreon or YouTube memberships, links for all of that are in the description below. Thank you for watching, guys, and I hope to see you all on the next video.